What's the most evil life hack, you know? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Learn to embrace the silence. It's such a powerful tool in professional conversations. Most PPL need to fill the silence and most likely say something they shouldn't. Story 2. Tell the truth 99% of the time. Then when you have that credibility, you can lie and people will believe you. Answer. I had an ex who was a serial cheater and an extremely arrogant narcissist. I was always afraid to stand up to him too much. Then one day with a soft, reassuring voice, I told him, "You know the best thing about being a good girl? A girl who has never cheated, never lied, never made you lie awake at night wondering if she's thinking of you or some other better, hotter, smarter guy. The best part of that is that everyone just believes you." The look on his face was one of the best moments of my life. Story 3. Let your asshat coworkers underestimate your skills when starting a new job. You'll be able to learn a lot more about the politics. Story 4. I was in a 3-person team in home ec in high school. I always volunteered to do the dishes. Then when it was something gross, like a really greasy pot or pan, I said to the other 2 that I do the dishes all the time and that they could do it for once. Story 5. Never give away your full hand when you start a new job. Hide some of your skills and talents until you need them to get ahead. It's always easier to improve when you're starting at 50 capacity. Answer. I did that in high school since my nightmare teacher let it slip. She was grading our PE class, where she regularly pushed me until I was dry heaving, crying, and uncontrollably twitching based on improvement. Next term, when we switched to doing sit-ups for grades, it turns out I could only do 15 on the first day, but magically improved at a steady rate all throughout the term. Of course, I was always able to do 100. She actually tried to give me a 50 because I only did half of the log each student kept. My word, was it hard to keep a straight face when I flipped the single paper sheet she was holding over to show the other half. Oh, the justice high I felt when she was forced to give me an A. Story 6. There was a guy who was a woodworker my dad knew. Horrible accident at work. Lost a bunch of fingers. Big settlement and too disabled to work. One day, he's at our house and he's tipsy. And he fudge tells us all he did it on purpose. My dad just told him to leave. Story 7. Whenever one of the unethical life hacks threads pops up, just copy and paste the top answers from the last one. Story 8. Go to Walgreens or somewhere that sells Costco or Sam's gift cards. Buy one for any amount and then go shop without being a member. Because you have the gift card, they can't make you buy a membership and will let you use it. Answer. I did this. Coworker took me to Costco with her because I'd never been. I didn't anticipate going much, so I paid her to pick me up 10 Costco gift cards. That gave me 5 free trips to Costco where I could shop and buy as much as I want. Just used the 10 card and then paid for the rest. Turns out I later liked it enough to join, and I've been a happy member for years now. But that was great when I didn't go much. Story 9. Eliminate them with kindness. Biggest troll ever. Whenever someone is super mad at you, don't fight back. Be understanding. Listen to them and don't respond with anything mean. It will drive them nuts and save you such a big headache. Answer. I work as an insurance adjuster, and I am going to do everything to help the people in principle. I am lied to quite often, though, and those are the funniest calls. Why? Because I do everything to help people. I will absolutely put whoever on hold with every excuse I can to track down leads, ask around, and waste their time by acting like I believe their absurdity. My numbers are good enough and I find it hilarious. They want to fight with me. They don't get to when I'm agreeing with them. Bonus is that I did actually find out an absurd story was true one time, and I got that guy through a weird situation. Story 10. Microsoft Paint can be used to delete and replace text on any scanned document. The eyedropper tool can match the font color and even the paper background color to make the change look seamless. Story 11. You know, that might be the answer to act boastfully about something we ought to be ashamed of. That's a trick that never seems to fail. Joseph Heller, Catch-22. Answer. I knew a guy who boasted at work about his project being the most profitable in company history. He didn't mention that his project was to unfuck the buggy garbage software he had created that was required for the implementation of our largest customer. So rather than being ashamed of screwing up the company's largest deal with his garbage programming, he took credit for the entire sale. Because his bug fixes for his own bugs cleared the way for the customer to actually pay. Then they promoted him. Story 12. My wife used to be quite indecisive, so I played rock, paper, scissors with her, and I always chose rock. After she clocked on, she would choose paper or scissors, depending on what she actually wanted. Helping her feel more comfortable recognizing and voicing what she wants was a genuine pleasure, as she struggled with this due to her parents. However, this led to her suggesting to play when she could avoid things, knowing I was only going rock. Stuff like cleaning the car, going to the shop, making dinner, little things we share responsibilities for, but in that moment she wanted to chill. Well, this went on for about 2 years while living with her mom, who had suddenly booked an impromptu late-night flight from an airport 3 hours away. She asked if we could give her a lift. My wife turned to me and said, "Let's play for it." In a moment without thinking, I went scissors. I shocked myself. Her jaw dropped. Her mom rushed her out the door while I ordered a pizza and played Xbox for 4 hours before going to bed. I had unintentionally created a get-out-of-anything free card. Story 13. Sprinkle instant mashed potatoes on someone's grass before it rains, and it'll make a huge mess. I certainly call that evil. Story 14. When you enter a raffle drawing, fold or crinkle your ticket slip of paper a little bit. It makes it slightly more likely to be drawn. It's worked for me a few times, and I feel a little guilty every time. Answer: this has absolutely worked for me. I joined a friend at an annual community event in a very exclusive neighborhood where everyone knows one another and outsiders are expressly shunned. I was taken around and introduced to people not to be friendly, but so I wouldn't be pressured to leave because I wasn't from there. There were a ton of raffles, so I did my crinkle trick, and I won like 3 of the really big ones, and people were pissed. Story 15. In many elevators, you can hold down the close door button while choosing floor to get a nonstop ride. Meant to be used by rescue service firemen. Story 16. I used to go to Subway knowing my bank account had like 45 cents there. I'd customize my sandwich, and then it was time to pay. I'd be like, ugh, what is wrong with my card? I have money in there. Since my sandwich was customized to me, they would just give it to me. I was a crappy teenager. Answer: the first time my card ever got declined was at Chick-fil-A. I was working at Disney and could not have been more broke. I basically just looked down and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have the money for this. I started to walk away and the worker just told me to take the food. I sat down with it in disbelief and cried. It was my first full hot meal in almost a week. My cat had cancer, and all my money was going towards helping him survive or rent utilities. Basically, he would eat or I could, and I always chose him. I was so grateful for that meal that day. Anyway, it wasn't on purpose or hacking, but if you've ever been in that position, you try to help when you can. Story 17. This is more of just a hack than a life hack. Those soda vending machines with the big square buttons on them, 3 rows of 4 buttons separated in the middle, used exclusively by PepsiCo? Well, if you count the first 4 buttons across, then press 1, 3, 2, 4, then hold down the selection you want, it'll dispense it for free as a maintenance test feature. Some places can turn this feature off, but it will still activate a sequence where you can pay for a soda and starts displaying codes when you push a button. So I'm sure if you say to whoever owns the machine that this thing ate your money, they'll give you a free soda or tell you to call the number on the machine to get a refund. If they do that, you're on your own. Hold the final button to cancel the test sequence. Answer: this was like 1982 and on Disneyland trip with family. The hotel we stayed at had several soda machines. Just being curious, I unplugged one and then plugged it back in. Much to my surprise, it spit out 10 in quarters. Rinse and repeat about 6 to 7 times, and I had my spending money. When one of the parents asked why I had so many quarters, I quickly came up with the fact I got changed to play video games in the hotel game room. Story 18. Use promo code MILITARY at checkouts when shopping online. You could get up to 30 off, and most sites don't require ID verification for this. Story 19. Behave like an idiot. People will trust you more and let their guards down. It makes it much easier to fudge them over, as they will never think that it was you. Also, no one will expect anything from you, so you will get cut a lot of slack. Story 20. On weekends, especially in the summer, go to your larger parks in your area and scope out the company picnics. Make yourself at home, grab a plate or 2. Nobody will challenge you. They think you are probably family. When I was a starving college student living in San Diego, did this almost every weekend. We'll do it occasionally when I come across the opportunity. Story 21. If you use Google Chrome, it saves your browsing history, even if you're on another device. This is how I found out my ex was dating a new girl before he officially broke up with me. He Googled questions to ask in a new relationship and also kept searching her name to creep on her. Story 22. Be as selfish and exploitative as possible and you will go far. I wish I wasn't so empathetic so I could try it. Story 23. Limit people's expectations of you. Occasionally make minor mistakes and never work your hardest. Assuming you otherwise do a good job, people will have a healthy expectation of your abilities, saving your mental health and slowing down burnout. Story 24. People say outdoor furniture is expensive, but it's actually free. People just leave it lying around for anyone to take. Technically the same with tires for cars too. Story 25. Some app games make you wait a certain amount of time to get more lives. Go to settings, put the date and/or time ahead, go to the game and get your lives, then set the date back. I haven't had to wait for new lives in years. Story 26. If you're ever in a situation where you have illegal items on your person and in a room full of people, say a party, and the cops bust in, don't just throw your things on the floor or in the toilet. Put them inside of a dresser or other object that can store things. Automatically not yours unless the cops see you do it. Story 27. Confidently stating, "and you know I'm right," after presenting your argument can be surprisingly effective. People are often swayed by conviction, even if the logic isn't entirely sound. Story 28. Walmart has a 90-day return policy for pretty much everything they sell. AC broken heat wave? Rent a couple window units from Walmart. Want a 72 old TV for a Super Bowl party? Rent it from Walmart. Story 29. Whenever you start a new job, remember, all 4 of your grandparents are alive. To be truly evil, you have at least 2 step-grandparents. Story 30. I come from a large and extended family. Knew some that circled like vultures when someone was about to die. Trying to sneak into anything from the inheritance. Someone is dying and its family and you're angling toward money? Answer, my sister had been married to a really great guy for 20 years, and they had 3 kids. Unfortunately, the guy gets cancer and is dying. I mean, he's in the hospital and he's not leaving until he's dead in a few days. Our dad waits until my sister and the kids had gone home and goes up to the hospital to see the guy. The guy was a few days away from dying and was out of his mind on pain pills. That's when our dad gets him to say that he'll give per dad his car and $10,000 from the insurance policy that my sister was going to be cashing in a few days later, so she can't take care of their kids, as the guy dies a few days later. This was right after the COVID vaccines became available. Not everyone had gotten theirs yet, plus his family and all his old friends are literally on another continent. He met my sister online and moved to America to marry her. He wasn't taking advantage of her or doing it so he could come here. I honestly don't know why my sister didn't go over there. So my sister decides to just have a Zoom funeral. He had been cremated, so it's not like anyone could see the body anyway. Our dad gets pissed off because my sister didn't invite him and his new wife over to their house for the service and just doesn't even bother bringing it up on his phone. So a week or 2 goes by, and per dad calls my sister and is getting angry because he still hasn't gotten his car or his money yet and is demanding that he get it now. Doesn't even care that the guy's 15-year-old son has been promised this car since the guy bought it. He wants it now. Besides, an almost 16-year-old kid doesn't need a car that nice anyway, so it should go to him. It's a 3 or 4-year-old Kia, hardly a car that's too nice for a kid. When my sister points out the fact that the money is supposed to take care of her and their kids, since he won't be around to provide for them anymore, he was only in his 50s, and that he very specifically wanted his son to have his car, our dad threatens to take her to court to get what he deserves. My sister told him that she has a signed will and that no judge is going to take things away from his wife and children and give them to his father-in-law because of something the guy said while he was on very strong narcotics and actively dying. She also said that if he'd even try to do something like that, then she'd be happy to see him in court. Story 31. I knew a guy who needed 4 new tires for his car. Instead of going to a tire place and shelling out $300, this was years ago, I'm just using $300 as an example, he instead rented the same model of car for a day. Then he swapped all 4 wheels onto his car and put the shoot ones on the rental. Ended up costing him the equivalent of maybe 1 tire. Story 32. If you ever need to get out of a meeting or social event, set up a fake call on your phone. You can use apps that let you schedule a fake incoming call at a specific time. When the call comes in, excuse yourself and say you have to take it. Instant escape without any awkward explanations. Story 33. If you can work safety into any argument, you can get away with just about anything. For example, I had a guy behind me at work in the driveway who always sped through the parking lot and was always in jerk. On day I decided to drive super slow through the whole parking lot, making him late. His boss yelled at him and he blamed me, so his boss asked me about it. I replied I was driving the posted speed limit in the parking lot of 5 minutes. It was shift change, and I wanted to be safe in case anyone was pulling out of a parking spot or walking. Just want everyone to make it home in one piece. Boss agreed. Story 34. Putting super glue in someone's lock can completely ruin it. making it impossible to open without replacing the whole mechanism. Story 35. This is weak evil, but if you dislike someone, but you know their personal info, name, address, phone number, sign up them for a prayer request for Peter Popoff Ministries. I did it once as a joke using my dog's name, and I can confirm they send so much mail. Like 15 pages of stuff per envelope, once or twice a month, for all eternity. It's so annoying. Cursing someone with religious scam artist junk mail forever feels evil to me, but in a totally legal way. Although I guess the people who suffer the most are the Peter Popoff Ministries, so maybe this isn't so evil after all. On a related note, the Popoff Ministries apparently are very good about not selling your info. I only got one non-Popoff piece of mail addressed to my dog in all that time. Story 36. Touch a person's arm while asking for a favor. It's not invasive enough to trigger most people's bubble, but makes you look earnestly beseeching. Learn this from a GF who was a master manipulator. She was proud of this hack. Story 37. Another self-checkout tip. The only difference in the code on organic produce and regular produce is the 9 at the beginning. Story 38. If someone asks you to do something sketchy or slightly illegal and you don't want to do it, tell them you are already on probation and don't want a third strike, then steal their wallet. They will be too scared to report you. Story 39. Mix cockroach bait into some mashed potatoes and leave it in the corner. The roaches will come running for the smell. Here's the kicker. They don't die right away. Instead, they take the potato mix back to their nest, which means you're secretly wiping out a whole roach family while you just chill. It's like a roach trap with a side of mashed potatoes. Story 40. One of the easiest ways to make your kid afford college is dealing substances. You can either make a good amount of money, or if you get arrested, sent to prison, she are eligible for scholarships related to this circumstance. Story 41. The cops in our town like to hide at the back end of the neighborhood park to catch people who let their dogs run off leash. They could park in the front lot and let people know they're there to deter off-leashers, but they prefer to sit where they can catch you in the act. To me, this says they care more about writing tickets than they care about actually enforcing the leash law. In order to get to the far end of the park, the cops have to drive through a gate that is always left open, with the padlock just hanging there, unlocked. When I know the cops are hiding at the far end of the park, I close and lock the gate on them. Answer: it's not necessarily about not deterring. Think of it this way. Imagine you are a person who likes to break the law and let your dog off leash. If you see a big sign up saying, "Today you will be fined," then on that day you won't break the law. But every time the sign is not up, you will. If instead there is no sign and it happens randomly, then you will be more likely to not break the law anytime. Kind of like that old pre-internet meme and pre-calling things meme LOL, with the sign on the farmer's gate saying something like, "Trespassers will be shot." I monitor this gate 2 hours per day. It's up to you to guess which 2 hours. Story 42. If you dine and dash from a steak restaurant, steal one of the steak knives so you can mug people later. Infinite money. Story 43. Save business cards from people you dislike. When you accidentally hit a parked car, write "sorry" at the back of it and leave it on its windshield. Story 44. I use my awful former boss's rewards at all the box stores by looking up her phone number as my own. Gets me free shoot and discounts all the time. Story 45. If the person interviewing you asks you to explain gaps in your resume, say, "I can't. I signed a non-disclosure agreement." Story 46. Had a Keurig break, bought a new one, put old one in new one's container and returned it, saying it broke when I tried to use it. Because it was broken, it didn't go back on the shelf, so the only one hurt was the company. Story 47. ChatGPT is really good at creating recommendation letters. Google businesses that went out of business recently. Plenty of websites for alternate phone numbers. Super easy to create professional-seeming email addresses. Be your own references. Works best for smaller companies. Story 48. The self-checkouts in stores weigh stuff in the bags to make sure everything was scanned. Saffron and greeting cards don't weigh much. Answer: yay, and here's the loophole. They have humans working the auto-checkout. Say you switch the tag on a cheap 100 tent to a better 500 tent. You go through self-checkout. You scan the tag you put onto the 500 tent, and it pops up as 100. Now say it comes up as the wrong weight. It's probably close regardless. The minimum wage worker comes up to see what the problem is. You tell them you aren't sure, you scanned your tent, and it's not working. They manually override the purchase because you have a tent, and the tag says tent and it's close enough on weight. You just left the store with a 500 tent for 100. Story 49. I have 5 different 1L water bottles, one for each day of the week. I fill them up before I leave work from the filtered water coolers and then put them in the fridge when I get home. Living alone, I haven't had to buy bottled water or a water filter in 11 years. Story 50. Buy stuff that you need like camping gear or a tent, canopy, and something alike, and then return it. I do it sometimes during the summer, saves a few hundred since I don't use it often and takes way too much space. Story 51. Ignore the fudge out of people who mistreat you, dislike you, have abused you, or generally don't you. It really gets to them more than getting back to them could ever. Story 52. Remain politically ambiguous. This is an easy way to plant substance out people who wish you ill when they begin assuming your beliefs. Then you can make them look stupid by taking the opposite stance. Story 53. I wouldn't say evil as such, but go to a casino, get a bunch of money and chips, and look like you might play something. Won't be long before you're offered a drink on the house if you look like you mean business. Cash in those same chips later on. Story 54. The Flipper Zero is worth over 9,000 TV remotes. I highly recommend it. All that power in the palm of your hand and then some, though I do caution it has limits. Story 55. Head to your local deli at a big chain supermarket and order a pound of crap deli meat. Walk away like a happy lad and circle the aisles until someone else is available behind the counter at the deli. Go back and order another pound of sliced meat, but this time, get the expensive stuff. Thank them for their troubles and scamper off to a quiet aisle. Now it's magic time, swap the labels and boom. Now you got expensive meat for a fraction of the price. Edit. Am too chicken shoot to try this, and I have a guilty conscience. You can thank my shady father for doing this around me as a child. Story 56. Big city with a large mall of 300 stores, also had 2 McDonald's, one on each side. Go to one and ask for an XL cup of water. Walk to the other and free refill with pop. Was a teenager then, and jumping on a skateboard took a few minutes to get to the other side. Story 57. Walk into a Chipotle, Panera, or any restaurant that puts online orders on a shelf. Walk up to the shelf with confidence and take one of the bags and walk out. Free meal. Story 58. I just finished a podcast about a woman who faked cancer and made over $200,000. I mean, I think it's despicable, but you can't argue that it isn't an evil life hack. Just make sure it's all in cash. You don't want to run the risk of committing wire fraud. That's what got the woman in the end. Story 59. I snuck into my ex front yard, spray symbols into her grass with plant substance killer. She thinks it's UFOs because the grass won't grow back. Story 60. I used to play waiter with my little brother. He would make and serve me food. When it was my turn to be waiter, I would say I was bored of this game. It worked only twice, but boy, he still gets on me for that one. Story 61. Need more time on a deadline? Send an email late at night with an attachment you know won't open. The next day, apologize and send the correct one. Buys you almost a full day. Story 62. Go to your local appliance store. Buy a microwave but pay in cash. Give a fake name and address. Go home, carefully remove the microwave from the box without actually damaging the box. Put a cinder block in the box. Tape the box back up. Go back to the store the next day and say that you had second thoughts about the microwave. Get your money back and get out of there before they open up the box and find a cinder block. You paid in cash and they don't have a real name or address to go after you. Free microwave. I worked at a furniture and appliance store. This actually happened to my coworkers. And Mary, answer. Some guy did this in Great Britain and bought a bunch of asphalt from Amazon to fix the potholes. He then returned all the product but filled it with like sand dirt rocks. He then said he didn't feel bad because Amazon uses all these tricks to avoid paying taxes and talked to a lawyer. And the lawyer said he could get in some pretty big trouble as it was thousands of dollars. He then explained he didn't do it. In business account he set up did. It was a LLC registered in Belize with some bank account in Cyprus made the purchase. So Amazon would have to take it up with the LLC in Belize, and once he got the refund, he drained the bank account and would just declare bankruptcy. Story 63. During personnel inspections, when I was in the military, I would try to stand beside the person who looked the worst. In comparison, I looked great. Story 64. Not an evil life hack, but buy a prepaid Visa card for cheap and leave a 1 on it. Then ever you have to put in your credit card for free subscription, Striles you don't have to worry about canceling, setting a date to forget about it. Saves a lot of headache and stress when you go back to cancel because of the first-time charge. Story 65. Self-checkouts offer a handful of ways to fleece big corporations that have been fleecing us all along. It's not really possible for them to check that you wrote the right product code on a bulk purchase from where they're standing. For example, so these high-end cashews are functionally low-end peanuts. I added 1 bag of ice to my purchase and carried my receipt to the cooler with me, which is why nobody bats an eye when I grab 4 bags of ice. But my favorite is one my old girlfriend seemingly invented. Buy a cheap bottle of wine, Carefully scalpel and peel off the UPC code. Go back another day and scotch tape the UPC code over the one on a really expensive bottle. Make sure the bottles are similar enough that the weight is the same. They'll come to check your ID, but they really have no reason to inspect your booze. That's how she spent 9 on a 200 bottle of Farniente for a Christmas party. Any others y'all know of? Sir, my local grocery store chain routinely discounts clearances merchandise by putting an orange 50 off sticker on them. The sticker is like a coupon. It has to be scanned right after you scan the item, usually by a cashier. On self-serve lanes, they have to come over to assist approve. They use these routinely on such a wide and random assortment of items, I can almost guarantee the cashier has no idea whether the item in your hand has actually been marked down. The 50 off sticker is generic and not tied to any product. Those markdown stickers are stuck on in-store when an item is marked down. They peel off pretty easily intact, which is great for sticker collectors. Edit to add, oh, I forgot. The technological fix for this is to require the cashier to scan the sticker, then peel it off and drop it into a slot. So it cannot be reused. They almost never do this. They either override the prompt to insert the coupon into the slot, or they stick a random piece of receipt tape into the slot instead. Because they don't want to be bothered by peeling off a little sticker? What a PETA. Story 66. I love that this thread is full of people who would be considered degenerates in any other thread. LOL. Reddit is so logical, but so emotionally charged at the same time. This thread is like a litmus test of what counts as acceptable behavior as per the Reddit Code of Ethics. Story 67. Tired of the neighborhood crackheads creeping around? Give them vague warnings about being watched while they're tweaked. Hey man, I think they're watching you. Who? You know who. Story 68. Definitely not evil, but here's mine. I always made sure to go to my teachers and professors for extra help advice if I wasn't doing well in a class. By the time grading comes around, any amount of your grade that's subjective, class participation, effort, will be bumped up because they know you're trying, but also just because they remember you now and have a more personal relationship with you. Story 69. Sign up your kid for free school lunch and later use the letter from the school district to sign up for the low-income rate for your utilities. Story 70. If you need your SO's unlock code on their phone tablet, power their device off while they sleep. When they wake, pretend to be asleep and watch as they sleepily type swipe their unlock info. May have to do it a few different nights, just long enough for them to be careless tired enough. I dislike this and wouldn't use it, but it's what I came up with when a friend had a cheating spouse but needed proof. Story 71. Decant any milk you bring to work into a different container and label it with something horrible so that nobody pinches it, and just to worry people. Story 72. If someone is really driving you nuts, you can just eliminate them and they won't ever bother you again. Story 73. Not only can people be manipulated into anything, once you figure out how to tie their pride into it, they become righteous about your manipulation. This is how you get loyalists. Let's say that there was a perverted guy manipulating a girl. He knows psychology and he's older, so he can manipulate her. But he will never call her a girl, he would call her a woman. This ties the girl into pride, and now her being off with an older man makes her feel independent and in control of her life. This seals the manipulation, and she falls to Stockholm Syndrome. This is not exclusive to relationships. This is how loyalists are born in politics. People who never admit that their party is ever wrong. These politicans manipulate people, then use ethnicity or subcultures to tie people's pride to their cause, sealing them in an illusion. I understand how this works. Not only did I study some psychology, but as an artist, I can create works that affect people in a certain way. It works, but it's immoral, so I use my knowledge of this to inform people of others using methods to control people. If anyone is tickling your ego, be alert. Answer. A minor example of this is always making sure to use people's names and not something like dude, bro, man, chica, girly. Makes people associate being around you with being heard and seen. You can create instant friendships with most people by using eye contact and saying their name in a nice tone. Ask a couple personal questions and a follow-up or two, and you'll be set. Story 74. If someone makes you angry or you just really don't like them, and you have their email addresses and cell phone number, you can register them for all sorts of websites and newsletters. If you have their cell phone number, you can go to an insurance website for a car dealership insurance quote website and use their telephone number as a callback. Source, People in my home state use my number as a generic callback number if they want to get a quote without being hounded. Had to use a call filter application with rules to deny calls from certain area codes and extensions because the calls would start at 5 a.m. and literally not stop until midnight. Story 75. If a car accident is your fault, do not call the police. If it's the other person's fault, call the police immediately. Story 76. You know when you get a ticket to park in those parking garages that charge hourly? Well, on your way back to your car, walk by the ticket machine and get yourself a fresh new ticket so you pay less. Story 77. When in doubt, fall asleep. Let my sleepwalking self handle it. I am more skilled in my sleep anyways. Story 78. Lie about mundane shoot to people so they can't tell when you lie about big things. Your mannerisms when you lie are obviously different from telling the truth. So if they are used to seeing your body language when it comes to lying about nonsense, when you lie about something big, you have the same body language and they can tell. I don't do it anymore because I have nothing to lose, and I prefer honesty. But in my former younger life, it helped. Story 79. Become a preacher. Throw out some quotes from the Bible occasionally. Talk endlessly about everyone else's sin. Fudge all the lonely women from the church. People are happy to give you their money. If you get caught, blame all your transgressions on Satan. Beg for forgiveness. Pay no taxes. Wash, rinse, repeat. Story 80. Not really evil, but I act dumber than I am in certain situations or around certain PPL. I have worked with some idiots, and I just pretend like IDK anything about the topic they're discussing, such as politics. It gets me out of a lot of arguments or confrontations. Story 81. This one is a total male body part move and is theft. But in high school, I went to the dollar store, bought a lot of very cheap wallets, and would routinely leave my wallet with server scab drivers, etc., saying, "I'll be right back," but would never come back. Story 82. If you're in the aisle seat on an airplane, there's a secret button under the armrest that lets you fold it upright. Story 83. If you always have a good attitude, people will take your side, even if you're in the wrong. I snapped at a coworker who was notorious for being a Karen, and everybody took my side. My other coworker tried to gaslight her that she was misremembering it. My boss even joined in to talk shoot about her. I'm so calm all the time, everyone assumed she started it and made up excuses for me. Story 84. Who needs the resource to AI? Last time my battery died, I just caught the bus to Harbor Freight, bought a battery charger, charged up the battery, put the charger back in the box and drove it back to Harbor Freight. Only took 2 days longer. Story 85. Consumer a bunch of dairy and Taco Bell when you're lactose intolerant and spend an evening with that annoying friend you don't want to hang out with. They will never want to hang out with you ever again. Story 86. Used to turn up at work no matter how bad the cold or the hangover, specifically so when I wanted a sicky day off, no one ever questioned it. Story 87. As a parts store associate, I've learned that if you have a jerk customer that gets any part with a lifetime warranty, and for some reason they bring it back for their money back, you can delete their purchase history and reprint the invoice as a literal reprint, which will make it to where they can only warranty replace the part and not get their money back. Story 88. When I was homeless, I would go to McDonald's, claim at the pay window that I forgot my wallet, and then at the next window, most of the time, I would get whoever's order was next. I don't think this works nowadays because they have cameras which match the car to the order on a screen. Story 89. I lie about legitimately everything to everyone, all of the time, and always to my benefit. I could pass a lie detector test sober with a smile on my face in the most convincing manner. Story 90. If something is overpriced at the thrift store and the price is just a paper tag attached by some plastic, rip off the paper part and put it in your pocket. When you're checking out, put the item midway or towards the end of your purchase. When the cashier gets to that item, they'll start looking all over for its tag. Casually mention you weren't able to find the price on that one. The person will see the plastic clip with no price on it and conclude it was torn off on the hanger or changing room or something. You paid for all your other items, so there's no reason to suspect foul play. Now they have to invent a price for the item or call over a manager to price the item. Either way, when an employee is looking you in the eye, they aren't comfortable stating a high price. This is especially true if you've been very friendly conversational. It makes them feel good to give you a reasonable or very low price. I've done this for years, and new price has always been 50, 90 lower than what it was originally. Of course, you can't do it multiple times for one purchase, or it's suspicious, and if you go shopping very often, you can't do it each time. I only go a few times a year and do it for the most expensive item. Last trip to the thrift store, I had a 55 sweater become 7 this way. Don't feel bad about it. In my eyes, the real evil hack is the prices these huge thrift stores make up for second-hand items they get for free. Story 91. If you want a fresh order of French fries, onions, rings, etc., just order them without salt. Add the salt yourself. Story 92. I think that doubling down on lies almost always works. People get caught lying, from criminals to politicians to misbehaving kids, because when confronted on their lies, they confess. If people just stuck to their lies and doubled down on them, they would almost always get away with those lies. Story 93. If you're rich enough and white enough and lie enough in the United States, you can commit felonies and still be a president. Story 94. Bankruptcy. I run up $50K in credit cards and then file bankruptcy every 10 years. I get new credit cards a month after the discharge from the same companies that I just screwed who wanted to help me rebuild my credit. Fill out the paperwork yourself, easy, and just pay a $200 court filing fee. There is no need to pay a lawyer. Story 95. Everybody should know the 3 golden rules of lying and deception. Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. So it is not so easy to be deceived if you notice somebody is arguing like that. Story 96. If you tell someone something with confidence, you can get away with the most amazing bullcrap. Also, if you say the most outrageous but verifiably true things, people will eventually believe the most outrageous lies. Story 97. Not advocating this, but when I worked RMA at a factory sorting returns of memory cards, we found a few where the person had taken the actual micro memory card, cut out the cardboard to scale image behind it, slid it into the adapter, and the big box store employees didn't even look to check. Didn't hurt us, there was no credit given back, so the store ate the loss. Story 98. When hiding a lie, admit to a much smaller, insignificant one, and dramatically break down over confession. People will think that if you're taking even a small lie so seriously, no way you're capable of hiding bigger one. Note, that only works if you have otherwise clean sheet and good reputation. Story 99. When poisoning an enemy, be sure to use radioactive poison. It's much more deadly than regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill poison. Vladimir Putin. Story 100. You can 3D print plastic discs the exact size and shape of a quarter, and they work perfectly in those quarter-operated candy toy machines. Notice to United States Treasury and/or federal agents. This post is a joke and not real. Story 101. All the kids in my neighborhood were mad they were going to build in our hangout, so every time they sent surveyors out, we would move their little markers by a couple of inches. It went on for years. They eventually did build, but in another part of the subdivision, and the spot we messed with is now trees again, 40 years later. Story 102. If I don't want to pay for shipping for something online that they don't have in store at Area American Eagle, you'll just go in person to the store and go to the cashiers and tell them this item isn't in the store, and then they'll ship it to my house for free. Story 103. I had a drill go bad, out of warranty, so I bought a new one of the same model, swapped the guts out, returned it to the store. If you're feeling nice, tell them it was defective, but you don't want a replacement, just a refund. I also once bought a drill kit that came with a free extra battery. I went back and told them that the free extra battery wasn't in the box. They gave me another battery. Story 104. I don't use this method, but based on my observations, as long as you don't care about being viewed as a total piece of garbage human, you can generally get your own way if you have no problem screwing people over, lying, and generally doing whatever you need to in order to come out ahead. Hell, it will probably even get you promoted. Story 105. Not really evil, but if you have well-behaved pets that don't destroy things, simply don't mention your pets if you're renting. You'll have to work around potential inspections, but you'll save hundreds throughout the year. If leasing companies want to be greedy and jack up rent every year, why should you pay this arbitrary fee just so they make more money? Story 106. When people commit road rage against me, like someone cuts me off and screams at me out the window, particularly when my kids are in the CAD and they are a tradie or a business with their phone number on the vehicle, I call the number. If the driver answers it, I figure out which area they service, then ask them to quote in a huge job outside of their service area, and which potentially has a large ongoing contract which would be a huge business deal for them. I schedule it for the most inconvenient time, on a day they don't normally work. Then when it's a few minutes before the agreed meeting time, I tell them there's been an emergency. Then I reschedule for maybe 3 to 4 hours later. Then again, a few minutes before the rescheduled time, I call and say emergency ongoing and reschedule for their next non-work day. Rinse and repeat. I get a lot of satisfaction from this. Story 107. You can start a business in Belize, then use it to buy expensive things on Amazon. Weigh the box when you get it and replace the object with sand. Then do a return and get your money back, but keep the item. And as long as it's not for thousands and thousands, Amazon will never go through the hassle of tracking you down. Story 108. You can surgically take someone's face off, wear it, and live their life. But they might take your face and live your life too. Credit: Nick Cage, John Travolta. Story 109. One of my clients never wants to pay my $3,800 expense on registering multiple businesses in different states. I contacted him many times, but he refused to pay me. Then I removed him from the company's ownership and sold out to random people to recover my money. Story 110. Any of y'all have any unethical life hacks for finding a job? A friend of mine is out of work and getting desperate. I tried giving her the advice about putting keywords in white text to trick the resume sorting AI, but it doesn't work. Story 111. Back in the day when you could fill up your own huge slushy cup at 711 and just show the cup to the cashier at checkout and pay by the size of the cup. I would fill the cup with candy bars first, then put a little slushy stuff in there to cover them. Pretty innocent, but not bad for a broke kid. Story 112. Lying. Don't limit yourself to lying in impulsive ways like a lot of people do. Think on a strategic level, not just in the moment. Think beforehand. How can you steer the conversation before it gets to needing to outright lie? Can you avoid it altogether if you deem it a big risk? Can you make the person feel something which makes them want to avoid the conversation? If you do lie, the key is in connecting to a real emotion. When you do it, you need in some weird way to feel the lie yourself and keep it realistic. Don't change your behavior during the lie, and above all else, ask yourself what you even stand to gain. People's trust is hard to regain. Also be aware of your own abilities. If you're not good at reading people's facial expressions, connecting them to their thought patterns, understanding people's inner emotional world motivations, you're not charming, then don't rely on it too much. Don't do it for ego reasons. Someone who grew up in a broken home and learned how to lie real quick his whole life and happens to be good at reading people. Story 113. I don't endorse this, but I heard of someone who would intentionally double book themselves for meetings they didn't want to attend. They'd schedule a fake meeting at the same time in a different location. When inevitably asked where they were, they'd apologize, citing the clashing commitments. Apparently, it works surprisingly often for skipping out on less essential meetings without raising suspicions. Story 114. I guess it's evil if you sympathize with employers, but if you want to get out of work, dry heaving sounds just as gross to a lot of people as actual vomiting, and it's considerably easier to fake. Story 115. Play dumb. It helps to avoid the undesirable work and rarely does the opposite sometimes. If that happens, then do a mediocre job. Story 116. Not really evil, more sticking it to the corporate man. Freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus. This is a good idea anyway. It's easy to lift the freeze when you need to for getting a loan or credit card or whatever. But while the freeze is in place, identity thieves can't start new lines of credit in your name. While your credit is frozen, go shopping at places that offer a big discount when you sign up for their store credit card. Places like JCPenney's often have ongoing deals like 30-40 off your purchase that day if you file an application for their card. And they have to give you that discount whether you successfully get the card or not. Go ahead and fill out the application for the card, get your purchase with the steep discount, and then about a week or 2 later, you'll get a letter in the mail telling you your credit card application was rejected. So sorry, no Penny's card for you. Oh, shucky darn. Story 117. This one is my favorite, and I did it a lot when I was younger poor. Go into the movie theater and almost walk into your movie. Before you do, look in the trash can outside of the entrance and find literally anything. A cup of Coke, popcorn bucket, candy box, etc. Empty it out and then crash it so it looks like someone stepped on it. Walk up to the refreshment stand and tell the person, someone just knocked this over when they walk by my seat. Can I get another one, please? I've done it so many times I can't even count. Every single time they give you a brand new cup or candy or whatever you grabbed out of the trash. Those teenagers working behind the counter don't give a fudge and give you whatever it was for free. Works every single time. Story 118. Pretend to be dumb at the job and they will not ask you to do much. Free money for doing practically nothing. Story 119. Take pictures of co-workers' genitals in the bathroom like a little punk meanie fudge You Mason, you little cum stain, you'll get what's coming to you. Story 120. Judging by this thread, my childhood was built around mastering evil life hacks, and as an adult, I wonder why this sounds normal. Story 121. A particularly sneaky life hack I've come across is using fake emails or disposable phone numbers to repeatedly sign up for free trials. While this can get you continuous free access to services, it's definitely not ethical. Though it might save money initially, it can result in getting banned or facing legal issues if companies notice. It's much better to look for legitimate ways to save money or budget for the services you like. Story 122. IDK if this counts, but I have two coworkers I despise. They don't like me either, and we all know we dislike each other. I usually just pretend they're not there. But in group settings, I'm always just as nice to them as I am to everyone else for the sole purpose that it makes them look like the jerk when they badmouth me to other staff. I even put in a complaint about one of them for something trivial. They hit back that I did the same thing to them. I 100 did. But because I'm always nice to them in front of everyone else, they got brought into HR for bullying. Story 123. If you look intimidating, walk with a purpose, you can get away with shoplifting any day of the week in blue states like California, New York. If you're athletic and clean-shaven with a high-fade haircut, most people will assume you're in the military or are a cop and will usually steer clear from you. It's a ridiculous hairstyle, so be wary. The most generous people, surprisingly, seem to be homeless people. Every time I've asked a hobo for $1 or free plant substance, they never hesitated to say no. Everyone else either plays dumb or quickly says no. Although you're a male body part if you pry off hobos, I only did it when I was homeless myself. Most cops have a hard-on for the military. Place some unit stickers on the back of your car. The 1st MAR Division, for example, no more than 1 or 2 stickers, and they have to be unit stickers, not logos, like the Army Star or the USMC emblem. You will most likely never get pulled over. And if you do just say you just got back from a deployment, and there's a strong chance they will let you go without a ticket if it's not a major traffic violation or crime, obviously. Story 124. Print fake money. Give it to the homeless. When they get caught with counterfeit bills, they end up with a room food service for life while making sure there is less homeless people in the streets. Story 125. It's only crime if you get caught. Steal, especially from big companies. Lie. Outside of a few situations, there are 0 penalties. There is no permanent record. Outside of a few people, nobody can get you in trouble. Story 126. If you ever need to dump a lot of shoot, ask for a return label on something you bought online and send a box of mindless shoot back to that company instead of what you wanted to return. It usually had a wholesome ending. That's how I've gotten some pretty cool shoot NGL, because I just took it home with me. Story 127. If you're gassy in public, stand next to someone holding a baby. When you're done, sniff loudly and look at the kid in disgust while walking away, mumbling about how some people shouldn't be parents. Story 128. Lie to your significant other and tell them your parents are coming over for dinner and you are really feeling bad and you tried to cancel but they're coming. Then wait until dinner time and emerge from your room saying you feel much better and your parents canceled, and voila, you have a clean house and dinner. Story 129. When you hear about a mass shooting, buy bun stocks. When you hear about a war, buy weapons manufacturer stocks. Story 130. Become friends with the rich kid, meet his family, integrate yourself into said family, slowly eliminate off the family, and take everything they have thanks Saltburn. Story 131. If you just consistently don't perform a task that's considered a shared responsibility, maybe packing the dishwasher at work, with time, it won't be that you're shirking your responsibility. It will just become something you're not responsible for due to some unknown reason. Story 132. Get the truth about things. Don't just believe what you hear. Investigate. When you tell people off, don't cuss or raise your voice. It takes some practice, but it works. The first time I did so, I was so angry I was afraid of what I might say or do, so I tried it. I left the man eating my dust. It didn't hurt that I knew the truth and helped him to a serving of it. I walked out in a blaze of glory and took some people with me. They heard it, and the light came on. Story 133. Carry a dog leash if you're doing a legal shoot, so if anyone catches you, you can guilt trip them into helping you find your non-existent dog. Go to homes near a venue the night of an event and sell parking spots in people's yards' driveways. A small bag of potato chips is an amazing and relatively undetectable fire starter accelerant. Story 134. Billionaires milking employees and shareholders. No one made $1 billion based on the value of their personal work. Story 135. When requesting someone to do something, add a thank you at the end. They're more likely to do it. It's like saying, would you kindly to the protagonist in BioShock? Story 136. This was the final loser bot question that got me to shower and go outside. Thanks, computer bot fake Reddit. Story 137. If you talk with security and a bit of arrogance, people won't bother to discuss and go your way most of the time. Story 138. If you want to get rid of an annoying intoxicated person, call 911 and explain that you are worried because the person is aggregated, high, and tragic in. Here is Germany. It is the fast lane to a psych ward. In the US, the problem might get solved permanently. Also, I laugh at the definition of most evil here. Tricking a gas station for a small discount. Really? That's chaotic good, if anything. Story 139. Not so much an evil hack, but Gmail doesn't recognize periods in an address. So you can use this hack for signing up for free trials without having 20 or 30 email addresses and passwords. Use the same one and just add a period in between a character. X. This is my mail, whatever provider T, she is my mail, TR, is my mail. Story 140. Tricking an entire corporate structure into paying you money for an employee improvement program, then building it out into the largest corporation in the country and not use the employee improvement program you sold to everyone else. Story 141. When I worked at the Joint, I didn't mind working most posts, but I absolutely dislike working control room. I deliberately screw some minor things up, and they never put me in there again. Story 142. Not too evil, but I had to take stats in college to graduate and am not a math person in any way. During tests, they would only let you have your water bottle and calculator. First couple tests sucked, then I realized it was always problems we already worked on. So I wrote the answers on the stickers of my water bottle. No one ever knew. Story 143. Said, not advocating dishonesty, but if you have to lie about something, include an embarrassing detail about yourself. They're more likely to believe you if they think you'd have no reason to embarrass yourself, like that example. I was sprinting to the toilet after all that Mexican food when I saw Joey put his head through the drywall. Story 144. If you need to be dishonest about something, deflect with unpleasant detail. Hey, sorry I couldn't make it. I've been struggling with drinking. You want to leave work early? Hey boss, I am having some serious toilet issues today. I think I need to go home and lay. Also sit down. Story 145. If you really want to fudge with someone, change an article on Wikipedia to match whatever BS you're saying, then show it to them. We got someone at work to believe that .org meant organism instead of organization because we changed the Wikipedia page and showed it to her. Obviously, change it back when you are done and pick something that likely won't have a ton of traffic, since the important stuff is often protected and limited on who can edit it, i.e., like you probably couldn't change the Donald Trump page to say that he bathed in Cheeto dust 3 times per day. Story 146. Meet a girl, boy, pretend you already have a girlfriend, boyfriend, develop a relationship. Do the same to another. They both think they are the side piece. Way less stress for a while. Story 147. Buy an item that you want, preferably high dollar. Return to store with receipt at a later date. Pick out and put the same item in cart or carry back to service center. Return their own merchandise. Worked loss prevention. Know it works fairly well. Story 148. 1. Sell your soul to Satan in exchange for immortality. Or 2. Become a vampire with an insatiable bloodlust in exchange for immortality. Ask me for other helpful tips. Story 149. Learn to shoplift. You don't need to be a jerk about it, but it's good to know in a pinch. Your local supermarket isn't going bankrupt if you steal some food when you can't afford it, but you will die if you don't eat. It's fine. Story 150. Start a corporation, get rich people to invest, this is the tricky part, and commit crimes with impunity as a corporation. Even if the government, really other rich people, comes after you, it will take decades to work through the system. As long as you are acting in good faith on behalf of a corporate interest, you can't be personally held liable. Any idea what good faith means? Good. No one else does either, apparently. The key is to be rich yourself. However, if the rich think you may be filthy poor, they will literally hunt you like an animal on the old Turner Ranch in Montana. Story 151. Pike them. Get born rich with enough money to buy into and control the media and the government. and then tell everyone that if they just worked hard enough, they'd be rich, and it's their fault then if they're not rich, while having the government pass legislation that lets you take more of their money and make them poorer while you get richer? Story 152. You can get free food from your favorite delivery app. Order delivery, but pick up your order instead of the driver. The app won't know what to do if no one can get your order. It's not illegal to pick up your own food. Story 153. Being a psychopath, no one will notice. And by the time they do, you're successful as fudge and no one can get to you. Story 154. Become a conservative commentator. You can make money selling the biggest lies while selling your country out. Story 155. Buy a cheap old PC from Facebook Marketplace. Make sure there's no specs listed. That's usually an indication that they don't know what they're selling. Try to get 25 off by pointing out nonsense that does not mean anything. Figure out how much the PC is worth. Sell it on Facebook Marketplace for 20 more than it's worth. Repeat this process until you got 400 in profit. Then buy a $5 RGB strip, put it inside the PC you have currently. Sell it for 4 times more than it's worth. Now you've got a lot of money. Story 156. When I was in between jobs and had no money for food, you walk into any restaurant that had those shelves for pickup orders and just take what looked like the heaviest bag. If it was super busy, I just mentioned to the cashier that I was there to pick up my order and that it had a large drink as well, and they give me a cup and I'd be on my merry way. Story 157. Anti-road rage. When someone is getting upset at you on the road, honking, hollering, etc., just smile and wave straight back. You feel better, and they get pissed that you didn't react. Story 158. Reminds me Sean Combs' son getting a UCLA football scholarship despite Combs being worth over $100 million. Story 159. Tell someone they won the argument in the middle of the argument. Usually they take it, but then they really have to prove a point, BC. They feel like that never got to tell you why they were right. Story 160. I live in the U.S. The drinking age in every state is 21, but getting around it boils down to the ethos of the management of the place where someone is trying to use a fake ID. Every professionally made fake ID has a tell. There are no 1.1 replicas. The closest that one can get to is Alberta, but that one has a very small, barely noticeable typo in the text of a seal. However, many bars and clubs want the sweet revenue that comes from underage clients who tend to stick to a place that regularly lets them in with a fake ID, so they instruct their staff to serve allow in anyone who shows an ID that says they're 21. Now, at this point, you might be wondering about the state-sanctioned underage agents whose goal is to try to get served adult beverage. There's a catch. They're not allowed to lie about their age. Undercover cops are allowed to lie about being cops, but adult beverage enforcement agents aren't allowed to lie about their age. Therefore, anyone who presents a fake ID isn't an agent. Now, there still is a risk associated with serving underage folks if they get into trouble afterwards, but a lot of club bar owners will take that risk to make the money. This is why some people have their fake IDs seized multiple times, while others get away with a single fake until they turn 21. If the owner of the establishment is a firm believer in the drinking age being 21, they will try to seize as many fakes to make a statement and scare off young people. If not, they just tell their staff to look for a birthday and not ask questions. Story 161. To get back at a cheating ex. Leave your ex's name, number, address on an anonymous STD hotline with a disease du jour. You think, oops, you may have passed to them, to which you tested positive. They will contact your ex with the info, but not your name. Story 162. Rules for lying. Make sure you remember your lies and make sure your lies are believable. I've got a brother that would screw that up, LOL. Story 163. I remember reading guides about dating and getting girls to like you. I opted out after the script sounded like a guide to manipulating people into liking you. No personality actually required. I'd consider them an evil life hack for some. Story 164. Learning how to fight and knowing by fact that you can somewhat defend yourself is incredible for your mental health confidence. How is that evil, you ask? Well, how would you know that you could indeed somewhat defend yourself without trying? Story 165. Not evil to us, but evil to email scammers. If you're using Outlook Hotmail, you can change your email address to a new one, and moving forward, you give out your new email address that is essentially same email account, but just different email addresses. Then your scammer will use your old one, while everything that is genuinely important to you will use your new email address. Then junk anyone who sent email to you using your old email address.